Hello, my name is Adrienne Atkinson and I am an indoor hydroponic gardener. I grow about 80% of the produce that I eat. And recently I went away for 3 weeks and I wanted to come back and have my produce that I'm accustomed to eating ready for me when I returned from my trip. I went to Columbus, Ohio to the Arnold. I am a swimsuit and bikini model, and I was in at the Arnold for a fashion show. I participated in a fashion show, and I also took care of my granddaughter. I'm a retired school teacher, and now that I'm retired, I grow my produce hydroponically. So when considering what my plants needed in order to continue growing while I was away, I had to think about how long does it take for the plant to go from seed to harvest. Now, most of your lettuces and some of your herbs, they can go from seed to harvest in 30 days. So, and many of the brassicas like collard greens and kales, once again, seed to harvest, 30 to 45 days. Those plants are really good to leave in their seedling form. So they only have about 2 or 3 leaves on them. They're not going to drink a lot of water and they're not going to have a lot of nutrient needs. And you will be able to maintain the lighting if you have a big enough tank or reservoir. So on my garden, which holds 5 gallons, I was able to leave plants that would grow and I would be able to enjoy them when I returned. And those were Swiss chards, lettuces, and I also had some basil clippings on my garden studio, which holds 4 gallons of water. I also had my flower garden going, and it never needed to be refilled. It holds 5 gallons of water, but once again, the plants that are behind me, they were seedlings when I left. I had just divided them, spread them out, and they were just fine, and they grew beautifully while I was away. The other 2 plants that I grew and was bell peppers and tomatoes. And what I did with the bell peppers and the tomatoes is I put them in vacation mode. Now, vacation mode is where the amount of light that the plants get is reduced. So instead of 15 hours of light, my plants were only getting about 8 hours of light. I did not reduce the nutrients. Because the plants are online, I'm able to see the water level for each tank, and I'm able to control the lights as well as control the pump, and I can do that remotely. So over the 3 weeks that I was gone, I only had to have someone come in one time in order to refill the reservoirs that I have, and top off the tanks while I was away. Let me show you what I came back to. So here are some of the produce that I've harvested on my return. Lots of tomatoes and cucumbers. And I was away for 3 weeks, and this is how my garden looks. I clipped some of the basil, and I'll show you the plant I clipped that from. This plant did well in the little mason jar. It's a tomato plant. It was a seedling when I left, and it's a little bit more than a seedling now. In the back, I have my chives, and I have an oregano plant right here. And I did not keep my green onions, but I'll start those back up very soon. So, and what I did is I put in a second light here in the back for the plants. So this light was off, And that's about the amount of light that they had while I was away. There they go. So those are the mason jars, and usually the mason jars will last for 2 or 3 weeks before they need water. The exception being the tomato, which will probably go for 1 week before it needs water change and a refill. And now my oregano is getting a little large, so it'll go for about 1.5 weeks before it needs more nutrients and a refill. But the others are pretty well acclimated to growing from the mason jars. And here are some of the produce that I harvested when I returned. Lots of tomatoes, cucumbers, and bell peppers. These are bell peppers. And those grew, the bell peppers grew in the Bounty. Now, this is an AeroGarden Bounty Elite, and it does go online. So while I was gone, I was able to see the water level, and I put it in vacation mode. So vacation mode means that it did not receive the full 15 hours of light. Instead, it went for 8 hours of light, and it also had a aerovore, which is a reservoir here. And so this tank holds about 1.5 gallons of water, and the reservoir holds an additional gallon of water. So 2.5 gallons of water, and that lasted for about 2 weeks before someone had to come in and take care of the and refill the reservoir for me. So the plants basically went for a couple of weeks without any attention, and I'll tell you about what needed to be done when someone came in. But this bell pepper plant had about 10 little bell peppers on it, and as you can see now, it still has a few bell peppers that are ripening. So even in vacation mode, it continued to ripen the fruit. What I did notice though is that the flowers had dropped. So it didn't continue flower production, but it put all its energy towards ripening the fruit, and it had also grown up into the lamp. So I've cut it back, and I'm expecting new flowers at any time. So this Bounty has 6 bell pepper plants. In hindsight, I would probably only put 4 in a Bounty, but right now it has 6, and that's because I didn't want to destroy the little seedlings. I have a hard time doing that. So but 4 would have been perfect for this Bounty. And over here is where my tomatoes came from. Some of them, most of them came from here. And this plant also put its energy, it went on vacation mode. So the Bounty goes online. So you can see right now it's online. And when it's online, I can see the water level, and I can put it in or out of vacation mode. I can control the light as well as the pump. And this one also had grown up into the light. I've raised the light since then, but it did grow into the light. It put all of its energy into ripening fruit and very little flowering. So it did not make a lot of flowers, but it ripened up a lot of fruit while I was gone during that 8 hours of light. So vacation mode on these AeroGarden Bounties is 8 hours of light, as opposed to normally these plants would have 15 hours of light. And here is my garden studio, and I will show you a picture of what this looked like before I left. Now, the garden studio had seedlings in it, so I knew that the plants, the mature plants like mature lettuce or this is chard, and I also have kale here. And these were seedlings when I left. And the basil here was a clipping, and the cucumbers were clippings also. So I had 2 cucumber clippings, a basil clipping, and seedlings and had seedlings. And they grew out nicely, so I've been eating the kale. I've been chopping up the kale and eating it. And I have cucumbers growing here now that I'm back. Now, I did not do anything as far as vacation mode for this one because it has a 4-gallon. It has a 4-gallon reservoir, and it also is online, so I could see the water level. I can also control the lights and the pump. And because the plants were so small, it went for 2 good weeks before it needed any attention. And the nutrients, it didn't need nutrients over that period of time, but I did have someone add a gallon of water. So the 3rd week it did get another gallon of water. Now the way I do my bounties is a little bit different. The bounties, I put their nutrition in the reservoir. So they have nutrition in the reservoir as well as the tank. So when they're ready, it's a matter of filling the reservoir, putting a teaspoon of Maxi Bloom in the reservoir and repositioning the reservoir. And once the reservoir is repositioned, you squeeze the little pump to get it going. So at no time were the tomatoes or the peppers without nutrients. They just had a smaller light cycle. And I probably do need to start cleaning maybe the algae out of the reservoir. Eventually I'll get in there with a bottle brush because I put nutrients in there, and if you have nutrients and you have light, you're going to get a little bit of algae. But when I refill the reservoir, I can clean that little algae off. So those are my AeroGarden bounties, and they held up really well for the 3 weeks that I was gone. And over here, we have a Garden 4.0 flower garden. And I'll have to show you what this looked like before I left. It grew absolutely beautifully, and it did not need any additional water or nutrients while I was gone, for the 3 weeks I was gone. But the plants were seedlings. They were not this big, but they grew beautifully. And this is a flower garden, so I have sunflowers and snapdragons and marigolds and all kinds of beautiful flowers, as well as a orchid that sits there on the bottom. Now, I did keep a couple of AeroGarden harvests going, and the 2 harvests that I kept going are here in the corner. And once again, because they only had seedlings, they did just fine. And this is the lavender, which I had taken apart from one of the garden cubes, and these were the excess seedlings. And this was also some flower seedlings. We'll find out what they are when they bloom. Yeah, absolutely wonderful. And now here we have my Garden 3.0 system, and it also holds 5 gallons of water. The 4.0 in the dining room held 5 gallons of water. However, this one did need to have a couple of gallons while I was away over that 3-week period because it has mature plants on it. Now, this one I could have put in vacation mode, but I kept getting emails that my internet was down, so I decided to control the vacation mode. As you can see, I got a lot of new fruit on this one. I took a lot of tomatoes off of this one. I am concerned that the fruit is in front of the light instead of being back here in the light. So I'm going to get an extra light. Sometimes I have these little wands, and I'll probably set up another one for the fruit that's growing outside of the light. But here I have pepper plants, tomato plants, and I also have watermelon plants. And the watermelons, I had pollinated them before I left. I had pollinated about 3 or 4 different flowers, and they also put their energy into ripening the fruit and not producing more female flowers. So I ended up with, it looks like about 4 watermelons that are growing. There we go, there goes another one. And yeah, it went to ripening the fruit, and I'm still waiting to see some female flowers now. So I've been back for about 3 days, and I did see some female flowers on my other watermelon plant, which I'll show you in a minute. I got my first female flower and pollinated that. Now the peppers did drop flowers, but they also ripened up the fruit. Those that were fruiting ripened up the fruit. Those that had flowers kind of said, hey, I can't deal with this small amount of light, we're going to drop our flowers. And now flowers are regrowing. So you can see within a day or 2 of having the correct amount of light, the flowers are coming along nicely. So these are the green beans. There were a total of 12 plants, 6 in each unit, and they grew very quickly despite being in vacation mode. They grew, they put out flowers, and I was really surprised by that, given that they were only getting 8 hours of light. But the AeroGarden farm is also online, so I was able to see the water levels remotely. And when I came back, I split them onto the 2 different levels. So there's 4 plants at the top and 8 plants at the bottom. Because there'll be 4 in there, 4 in there. Yeah, that's 8. And then 2 plants here, 2 plants here. And like I said, they're not as green as they usually are, but they do have quite a few flowers, and they're looking pretty nice. And then my cucumber plant lost a lot of leaves, but I came back to several cucumbers. There were a couple of malformed ones back there in the back, and there's some nice looking ones that are growing here. And so what it sacrificed, it decided if it only got 8 hours of light, that it would produce fruit but not leaves. So, but you know, now I have more flowers growing, and so I'm expecting more fruit. I'll harvest the cucumbers that I have, and they'll continue to produce cucumbers for me. And here goes my watermelon plant. And as you can see, my watermelon's getting bigger, a sugar baby watermelon. And there's another one that you can see there in the mirror. So there are about four watermelons growing in this AeroGarden Farm XL. And I did get some female flowers, and once again, this was in vacation mode, so there was only 8 hours of light. But I maintained the nutrient level using this reservoir. So 1 teaspoon per gallon, continuously fed, And like I said, it's online, so I can see the water level as well as control the water level, raise, lower the lights as needed while I'm away. So here go the herbs that I dried prior to leaving, and I will put those in containers and use those while I'm waiting for my fresh herbs to grow. So this is the dill, and this is the mint, this is thyme, and this is oregano. Though I do have oregano growing, and this little guy right here is thyme. But there was no way I could keep this gigantic dill plant or mint plant going. They were drinking a lot of water, so I decided to dry them. In hindsight, the only thing that I would do differently is I would make sure that I have a camera on the reservoirs that are in my farm room, because it was really nice to be able to see the level of the reservoirs so I could give my friend a few days notice as to, looks like one of my reservoirs are going down, they're going to need refilling. But I don't plan to be away for more than 3 or 4 weeks at a time, and I'm really happy with the results of what I've done with my garden. So now that I'm back, I'm ready to plant some more flowers. I'm ready to get some more seeds going. So join me on this hydroponic journey so I can take you along and you can see how my gardens grow. Thank you very much for watching.